Welcome back to Kerfuffle Kitchen. Today we're going to be making sourdough. I just got off work, so I'm a little tired, so I'm going to try to make it as fast as possible. Here we go. So what you want to do is you want to have 500 grams, and you know baking is a science, so you want to make sure you measure this out. It's also 4.5 cups, but 500 grams if you have a scale. Next thing you want to do is you want to grab, by the way, it's I use all-purpose flour for this recipe. You can also use whole flour if you want, or mix both, however you want to do it. Then you're going to need 330 grams of water. This along with a little bit of sea salt, about 9 grams. We're going to put that into the water and just start stirring it up. That way we're going to break down the salt a little bit. Make sure it's sea salt. And then this is actually going to be about a 2-day recipe. So if you stick with me, you're going to learn all the tricks of the trade that I know for this stuff. Next, you want your starter. What you want to make sure is that it's a bubbly, active starter, and you can tell that it is because it'll be bubbly. It's risen. Oh, won't fit. Okay, we're going to do it with the cup. It's going to be a 1/4 cup or 50 grams of yeast starter. Now, I'm making this recipe in a bulk of 2 times, so you can do it however you want. I'm just giving you the 1 times amount. That way, if you want to make it 2 times, you can. Okay, so I'm done with this. Okay, so now that I have my dough, or my starter and water and salt all together, you're going to pour this mixture into your bowl of flour. Make sure it's a really big bowl because when the stuff rises, it's going to rise a lot. You're just going to pour into a bowl. Make sure you get everything out of the bowl. And you're going to mix it with a fork until it becomes a shaggy dough. When it reaches that shaggy doughness, it's going to look like broken up a little bit. Now after it reaches that peak and it doesn't look too wet and it's kind of absorbed most of the flour, you want to go ahead and take it. Here, I'm going to come closer so you guys can see it. You want to take this shagginess. As you can see, there's still flour around. You just want to make sure when you take it around is after it becomes too shaggy and kind of a little sticky, you want to mix it by hand, just finishing that guy off. So like so. You're going to get a little dirty. Don't worry. We like to get dirty. Now if it's too sticky, you can add some more flour. And if it's too dry, you can add a little bit more water. But it should, if we follow the instructions precisely, come out to the, or rather you guys follow the instructions precisely, because I am kind of like the perfectionist in the kitchen, making sure everything's correct and everything is precise. Anyway, so you're just going to do this until a thing of dough forms. Now you want to make sure all your flour is incorporated. Don't leave anything left or unturned. So here we go. I'm almost done. Let's see. I've been kneading for about a minute. Let's see. Look, see, it's a nice firm dough. I got the dough in my hands too. But don't worry, that's normal. So we're going to just keep mixing this till all the flour is incorporated into this bread. What you don't want to do is you don't want to skimp on the moisture. So my dough is a little dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit of water, like a tablespoon at a time. That tablespoon is really going to be a lot more than you need for water. Now, I'm going to end the video soon, but you want to let this rest for 30 minutes, and you want to knead it again very gently, and then it's going to rest overnight. Actually, I'm not going to end the video. I lied. Okay. Here we go. Mixing it up a little bit. Now what's going to happen is if you let it rest the first minute, or actually it's going to rest for 30 minutes after this, we'll come right back. So I bid you adieu for now. We'll come back in a minute. Okay, we're back. So I should have mentioned this before, but make sure when you do this, you use a wet rag or saran wrap to just keep the environment within a little moist so the bread has a chance to kind of ferment. So anyway, we have our dough. Now we're going to make it into a ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to just grab it from the middle like this. Wait, you know what? Let me get you a better angle. We're going to grab it from the side like this and then fold it into the middle very, very gently. Use the tips of your fingers to kind of fold it in. And after like a dough starts to form, which means like when this guy starts to get real tough, that's when you're done. And then we're gonna set it overnight. So it's gonna rest for about 10 to 15 hours. At that point, the yeast will start taking advantage of all the proteins and sugars inside the starch, which then will make this guy grow real big. Now, this is a step I recommend you use saran wrap, because when you use saran wrap, if you use a wet towel like this, it tends to just stick most of the towel after it's grown a lot. Make sure when you use a bowl, it's big enough, because this guy rises a lot thanks to that yeast. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the morning for the finished product and hopefully the other half of the video. Okay guys, as you can see, my dough that I showed you last time has almost tripled in size. So that's why I gotta urge you to make sure you get a bigger bowl than you think you need. And so it's gonna be moving on to step 2 in a minute. And we're back with part 2 of making bread. So now we let it rest overnight for 10 to 12 hours. I'm going to show you how much it rises. See, when we had the bowl prior, it was a little bit smaller. Okay, so we're going to just sprinkle some flour onto our work surface. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the bread out and we're going to roll it into a ball. So here we go. We're going to take the bread out. It should separate from the bowl relatively easily while you scoop it with your hands. As you can see, I told you before, I'm going to make it a lot of bread, because I'll never do anything in small batches. As you can tell, unless it's breakfast, then it's kind of a small batch. We're gonna put that right over there. All right, again, with your other hand, dust your hand with a little bit of flour so you can make the work surface. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull it from the sides and fold it into itself, like this, until you've come full circle. Then after this, after it's all nice and folded in, you're going to put the smooth side facing up into a floured bowl with a rag or a towel, so make sure it's floured so it doesn't stick, so it can start to shape your dough. Anyway, it's going to take about 25 to 30 minutes to shape the dough, so we're going to be right back. Okay, we're back. We let the dough sit for about 30 to 35 minutes, I think. Anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to take the wrapper off the top. Same process. We're going to do the fold again. This is called the second rise. See, with the flour just came right off the towel. If your towel is not floured properly, basically if it's not coated well, it's going to just stick to it. Okay, so we got the dough right here. Okay, floured surface again. We're just going to do the same stuff. Make sure it's good to have a bench knife when you're doing this. Let's get some more flour right here. Get on the hands. Okay, same steps. We're just gonna, fold it into itself. Now, don't be afraid. I want that in there. Don't be afraid if your dough gets a little tough. When you're starting to work the gluten in the dough, it starts to get a little more tough. So when you let it rise, that's when the air in the bread starts to come out, which is basically the yeast eating away at the sugars in the bread. So we're gonna just make sure this is nice and smooth. Dust your rag again, just so the second time it's good to go. Now we're gonna let this rest again for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna start cooking it. Okay, here we go. This time you want the crinkled side that you've been turning over facing up. The other way you wanted it facing down, the smooth side. Now the smooth side is gonna face down rather than up. Okay. We'll be right back when it's finished rising, and then we'll cook it. Okay, and we're back. So, just to give you a heads up, I have the oven preheating to 425. That's where you want it. You also want to make sure when you're doing your bread, after you're releasing it from the parchment paper, from the bowl itself with the rag, you want to release onto parchment paper so you can transfer it into your cooking vessel. The best cooking vessel for sourdough bread is going to be I believe it's called a Dutch oven, which is like a pot kind of a thing. I don't have one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you bread 2 ways. We're going to do it in a loaf pan. We're also going to do it in a roasting pot. And since we're doing it in that, we want to make sure the oven has a lot of moisture. So I put about a cup onto a baking sheet down there, just so when it starts to heat up, it keeps the bread moist, doesn't dry out too much. Okay, so what we want to do is you want to dump this onto your parchment paper like so. It released super easy. Okay, we want to also make enough for our little loaf pans. We're just going to cut off a little piece right here by a little baking knife. Right, bam, bam, bam. Okay, easy peasy. Just going to roll it out real quick. Okay, this one I take some flour now. I'm going to dust the top of my new little loaf right here and dust the top of this loaf. I want to make sure it's nice and dusted. Okay, so you're going to put the parchment paper, make sure you have a generous amount so the paper sticks to the bread, but the bread doesn't stick to the pan. Okay, now for the big guy, which is this guy right here, I'm actually going to make sure he has a little design on top. You can do whatever you want, but let's go traditional. We're going to just cut it about 4 inches in length at about 12, 6, 3, and 9. So like just a cross, basically, cross section. Okay, now that's done. We're going to pop it in the oven. It's going to take about 20 minutes to start cooking. And at that point, you want to uncover it if you're using your Dutch oven. And then it's going to take another 30 to 45 minutes after that. And you know what? We're going to come back and check out this awesome bread right when it's done. Yes, sirree. Like I said, make sure you have plenty of parchment paper lining the sides so your bread doesn't stick to your pot, because that's when you're going to have a bad day. Oh, whoopsie. Anyway, we'll come back when it's done. Okay guys, we are back for the final revealing. So I know that I promised bread. However, I like to think things up a little bit. I don't know why I have that on right now. It's on the scrubbing paper. I did a garlic and rosemary butter just so I elevate the bread a little bit. Hot, 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 hot. And that's it. Bread's done. It's not as hard as it looks. It's just a little bit time consuming. Besides that, I mean, bread's actually pretty easy. Not gonna lie. Ooh, let's let that cool. We're gonna let these cool for about an hour. And then after that, we're gonna just slice into them. You can save them. They are good about 3 days after the initial cook. Or you can put them in the fridge and they'd be good for like maybe 5, 6 days. Anyway, that's how you make healthy, home-cooked sourdough bread. Like I said, it's just a time-consuming process at first. After that, it's super easy. Anyways, you can like the video, share it, and as always, I also have a YouTube, Kerfuffle Kitchen, at YouTube. And like, subscribe, share. I am dying to grow so I can share my ideas with people. And give me any feedback you guys might think I might need. And I'm down to cook whatever you guys recommend. This was recommended for someone, so I then cooked it. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the bread real quick before I head out. This guy around. Look, we got a nice rosemary. Oh, it actually looks kind of burnt from the camera, but it's not burned. Anyway, it's kind of like a garlic bread. It smells really good. This little loaf I made for my mom. This big loaf made for my girlfriend. My girlfriend loves bread. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the flip side, and this is a hello and goodbye from Kerfuffle Kitchen.